The Chicago morning was wrapped in fog. Emily Harrison gazed at the scenery flowing past the commuter train window while checking her bank balance on her cell phone. She had just finished sending money to her family home this month, leaving only the bare minimum in her own account. She continued to carry the heavy burden of her family's expectations. It had already been 10 years since Emily started working as a sales representative for a medical device company. Her grades in college had always been top-notch, and her parents called her the family's pride. After graduation, when she began earning a stable income, she naturally found herself being asked to provide financial support for her family. It started with a few $100s a month, but now she was sending nearly $2,500 monthly, including $2,000 for her parents' house rent and $300 for her sister Jessica's dog food expenses. Her mother Linda was known in the neighborhood for her elegant lifestyle. She hid the fact that she was actually living off her daughter's money transfers, explaining to friends that, "My husband's pension is quite sufficient." For Linda, Emily's success was the result of her own parenting, and it was natural for her daughter to support the family. Every time she called, she had a habit of ending conversations with the phrase, "We're family, so of course it's natural." Her sister Jessica didn't hold a steady job and continued chasing her dream of becoming an influencer. After dropping out of college, she jumped from job to job, but none lasted long. "I have special talent. Regular jobs would just be a waste," was her catchphrase. Jessica counted on her sister's stable income, saying matter-of-factly, "Since you're earning good money, there's no problem with me spending it, right?" 3 years ago, Jessica suddenly started keeping a golden doodle puppy. Named Princess, the dog was set to appear as the poster dog for Jessica's Instagram. However, all the costs of caring for the dog fell on Emily. In addition to the monthly $300 dog food expense, trimming, veterinary visits, toys, and luxury beds, Princess-related expenses expanded without limit. Emily herself lived in an old apartment a bit away from downtown. To keep rent low, she had chosen a room in a 30-year-old building. In winter, the heating barely worked, and in summer, the old air conditioner didn't function properly. Friends said, "You should live somewhere nicer," but Emily needed to keep her personal expenses to a minimum because of the money transfers to her family. She kept her monthly food budget under $500 and rarely ate out. Colleagues sometimes wondered about Emily's frugal lifestyle. Her salary certainly wasn't low, yet she always seemed to be practicing economy. She brought homemade lunches and often left company drinking parties early, saying she had things to do. The truth was, she also wanted to enjoy fashion and travel like other women her age. However, her family's expectations and sense of responsibility wouldn't allow it. This situation also cast a shadow over Emily's relationships. Even when dating, explaining her family's circumstances to partners was depressing. She was often met with surprise, "You send that much money to your family every month?" Gradually, she became less enthusiastic about romance. When marriage came up in conversation, she would always answer vaguely, "It's not the right time yet." On weekends, Emily often visited her family home out of a sense of duty. Each time her mother greeted her with, "How nice of you to come," she would immediately shift to household finances. When her sister saw Emily arrive, she would proudly show off her latest cosmetics or Princess's new toys. Watching Jessica talk happily as if she didn't know these items were bought with the money Emily struggled to send created complicated feelings. Within the family, Emily was beginning to realize that she alone bore realistic responsibility. However, changing a relationship built over many years wasn't easy. Torn between her family's expectations and love, Emily headed to work again today. On a Saturday afternoon in October, Emily was walking the road to her family home. The residential area in the Chicago suburbs was colored with autumn leaves, and she could see other families enjoying Halloween decorations. In Emily's hands was a paper bag containing her mother's favorite wine and luxury treats for Princess. Visiting her family home the day after payday had already become her habit. When she opened the front door, she could hear Jessica's excited voice from the living room. "Look, look! Princess's new bed." As Emily stepped into the living room, a huge dog bed was placed in the center of the room. Made of beige luxury material, the bed was as gorgeous as a human sofa, with the word "Princess" embroidered in gold thread. Isn't it wonderful? It cost $800. Jessica said proudly while brushing Princess's fur. It uses organic cotton and memory foam, so it's gentle on Princess's joints. My Instagram followers are raving about it too. Emily was momentarily speechless. $800 was more than her monthly food budget. $800? With the money I sent, you bought something this expensive? The words slipped out before she could stop them, and Jessica frowned. What's with that tone? Princess is a family member. What's wrong with spending money on family? Mother Linda peeked out from the kitchen. That's right, Emily. Princess is our precious family. You love her too, don't you? Linda's voice had its usual matter-of-fact tone. Besides, Jessica's Instagram followers are increasing. This is like an investment. Emily sighed deeply. You say investment, but you're not actually making money from those followers, are you? Not yet. But I'm about to close a brand collaboration, Jessica retorted. Being an influencer isn't something that happens overnight. It takes time. Emily took the wine out of the paper bag while murmuring quietly, I'm living on a $500 monthly food budget. Jessica turned around at those words. That's why you can't get a boyfriend, her voice was filled with mockery. You're so stingy that men won't come near you. Why don't you spend a little money on yourself? Emily's chest tightened. She was economizing precisely because of this family. However, that fact was completely ignored. You understand why I'm saving money, don't you? Oh, here we go again, Jessica sighed dramatically. You always talk like you're making sacrifices. But it's a fact that you're earning good money, right? It's natural for the person who's earning to support the family. Linda placed her hand on Emily's shoulder. Jessica's right. Since you're successful, it's natural to support your family. Besides, you being single is because you're focused on work, right? A wonderful person will appear someday. Emily said nothing and headed to the kitchen. As usual, she would end up helping prepare dinner. Mother had already prepared the ingredients, but the actual cooking was left to her daughter. Emily's a better cook, was her mother's excuse. Standing in front of the stove, Emily reflected on her life. In college, she had been full of dreams for the future. She had pure motivations, wanting to contribute to advances in medical technology, to help people in need. But now, she spent most of every day working to provide financial support for her family. Her own dreams and hopes had somehow been pushed aside. Emily, do you remember how to make onion soup? Linda came into the kitchen. Your onion soup is really delicious. Jessica loves it too. I remember, Emily began chopping onions. Tears came to her eyes, but she couldn't tell if it was from the onions or her emotions. From the living room came the sound of Jessica playing with Princess. Princess, how do you like your new bed? Do you like it? Next time I'll buy you a matching blanket. Emily gripped the knife tighter. The money that would be spent on Princess's blanket was also what she had earned. However, if she pointed out this fact, she would just get the answer, we're family, so of course, again. While preparing dinner, Emily remembered her colleague Sarah. Sarah was the same age and had recently gotten engaged. She used her income freely, enjoyed traveling with her boyfriend, and devoted time to hobbies. When Sarah said, family should support each other, Emily could only smile bitterly. Rather than supporting each other, the reality was that she was supporting them one-sidedly. Emily, we changed Princess's dog food to a new kind too, Jessica poked her head into the kitchen. It's organic, grain-free premium food. It costs $150 per bag, but it's for Princess's health. $150? That's more than double the previous dog food, Emily turned around. But Princess didn't eat much of the previous food. She's picky about food, Jessica said while petting Princess's head. Since she's a luxury dog, she has refined tastes. Emily calculated in her mind. With the new dog food, the monthly cost would be nearly $500. The same amount as her food budget would be spent on the dog's meals. However, if she objected, she would be treated as a cold person who doesn't care about family. I understand, Emily sighed quietly. I'll adjust the transfer amount starting next month. Thank you, Jessica said happily. Princess will be delighted too. However, Princess was just yawning sleepily on her new bed. For a dog, whether the bed cost $800 or $80 probably didn't make much difference. What mattered was only comfort, price and brand were just human satisfaction. During the time until dinner was ready, Emily continued thinking alone. When had this kind of relationship begun? When had she started being treated like a family ATM? And the most important issue was how long this situation would continue. Jessica's chances of succeeding as an influencer were low, and her mother showed no signs of working. In other words, this economic dependency relationship would likely continue permanently. Emily acutely felt the need to reconsider her life plan. If she continued supporting her family like this, her own future would be virtually non-existent. However, changing a relationship built over many years was more difficult than she had imagined. Dinner was, as expected, dominated by talk of Jessica's ambitious plans for success and Princess. Linda praised her daughters, saying, Emily's onion soup is really the best, but immediately shifted to Jessica's Instagram followers exceeded 10,000. Emily continued eating in silence, once again realizing what position she held in this family. After dinner, Emily finished washing dishes and moved to the living room. Jessica was already lying on the sofa, editing Instagram posts on her smartphone. Princess was sleeping comfortably on her new luxury bed. Linda was knitting while watching the news on TV. It was like a picture-perfect, peaceful family scene, but Emily felt as if she alone was left out of that harmony. Oh, that's right, Jessica suddenly looked up. Next week, I'm having Princess photographed by a professional photographer. Portrait photos. I'm sure we'll get wonderful pictures. A professional photographer? Emily frowned. How much will that cost? It's not that expensive. Just $500 for 3 hours, Jessica answered lightly. But it's a necessary investment for Princess's modeling debut. With good photos, we can expect sponsor offers from pet food companies. Emily took a deep breath. $500 was the same as her monthly food budget. But will those sponsor offers really come? Do you have any concrete discussions? Not concrete yet, but there's potential, Jessica said with some irritation. You need upfront investment to succeed. Don't you understand even that? Linda stopped knitting and interjected. Emily, Jessica is working hard toward her dream. You should support her. Working hard toward her dream. Those words stabbed at Emily's heart. She remembered that she too had dreams. She had pure feelings about wanting to contribute to medical technology, to help people in need. However, her current self was caught up in providing economic support for her family and had no room to pursue her own dreams. I understand, Emily sighed quietly. Even if she argued, she could see it would just end with the conclusion, we're family, so of course. Emily stood up and headed to the bathroom. Walking down the hallway, she thought about her life. At this rate, she would end up supporting Jessica and Princess's luxurious lifestyle forever. It felt like her chances of marriage, of having children, were getting further and further away. When she returned from the bathroom, the atmosphere in the living room had changed. Princess had stood up as if alert to something and was making low growling sounds. Jessica was still looking at her smartphone, not noticing the dog's behavior. Princess, what's wrong? Emily called gently to the dog. However, Princess's growling gradually grew louder. Oh, Princess, Jessica finally looked up. She must be hungry. Let's give her some new dog food. Just as Jessica was about to stand up, Princess suddenly began barking violently. The sound was more aggressive than anything they had ever heard, echoing throughout the living room. Linda dropped her knitting in surprise, and Jessica froze. Princess, quiet. Jessica scolded, but the dog couldn't escape its excited state. Princess's eyes were bloodshot, baring her fangs threateningly. Emily tried to stand up slowly. She intended to move quietly so as not to stimulate the dog. However, the moment Emily raised her hips, Princess leaped toward her. In what felt like time standing still, Emily felt sharp pain in her thigh. Princess's fangs bit deep, and blood gushed out.
Ah!
Emily's scream echoed through the living room. Even after biting once, Princess wouldn't let go, shaking her head to deepen the wound. Emily desperately tried to shake off the dog, but Princess's strength was greater than she had imagined. "Princess! Stop it!" Jessica screamed as she rushed over. However, the first person she went to wasn't Emily, but the dog. "Princess, are you okay? Were you scared?" Jessica hugged Princess and began comforting the dog. Emily was sitting on the floor holding her thigh, but no one was concerned about her injury. "Jessica, Emily's hurt." Linda finally came to her senses and shouted. "But Princess is startled," Jessica answered while still hugging the dog. "Because you stood up suddenly, this poor thing got frightened. It's Emily's fault." Emily stared at Jessica in disbelief. Blood was continuing to flow through her jeans, yet her sister was only worried about the dog. Her consciousness was becoming hazy from pain, but Jessica's words cut deeper into her heart. "I need to call an ambulance." Linda reached for the phone. "Wait." Jessica stopped her. "An ambulance is too dramatic. Besides, Princess will be even more frightened. Ambulance sirens are too stimulating for dogs." Blood continued flowing relentlessly from Emily's thigh. The wound was deeper than expected, and it was clear that Princess's fangs had reached the muscle. However, the family's attention was still directed toward the dog. "Princess, it's okay. You're safe now," Jessica whispered gently to the dog. "I'm sorry we scared you." Emily took out her cell phone herself and with trembling hands called 911. "I need an ambulance, please. I've been bitten by a dog and am bleeding heavily." After hanging up, Emily looked around at her family. Linda looked worried, but Jessica was still hugging and comforting Princess. In this moment, Emily completely understood how lightly she was regarded within her family. During the 15 minutes until the ambulance arrived, Jessica never once tried to check Emily's wound. Instead, she took Princess to another room, saying, "So this poor thing won't be stimulated anymore." Linda brought a towel to stop the bleeding, but even then she murmured, "Princess is usually such a gentle dog, I wonder what happened." When the paramedics arrived, Emily's consciousness was already hazy. She heard voices from far away saying, "Large dog bite, deep laceration, heavy bleeding." As she was carried on a stretcher, Emily stared at the ceiling. As her family's voices faded away, she was firming up one resolution. She would never return to this house again. She had no intention of wasting any more of her life on people who didn't value her. After surgery requiring 18 stitches at the hospital, Emily was to be hospitalized for 3 days. The thigh wound was deeper than expected, reaching the muscle, so there was also risk of infection. Lying in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, for the first time in her life, she seriously considered complete independence from her family. During her hospitalization, there was never a single visit from her family. Only one message came from Linda, "Are you okay? Animal control contacted us about Princess. What should we do?" Even that message contained no words of concern for Emily's injury, only worry about the dog's disposition. There was no contact at all from Jessica. After discharge, Emily returned to her apartment on crutches. The doctor said it would take 6 weeks for complete recovery, but fortunately she could work from home, so the impact on her job was minimal. However, the psychological impact was immeasurable. When she woke up in the middle of the night, the moment of Princess's fangs sinking into her thigh would come back like a flashback. 1 month after discharge, on a day in November, Emily's cell phone rang. The caller was her mother Linda. Emily stared at the screen, breathing deeply. In her entire life, she had never ignored a call from her mother. But today was different. The phone cut off once but immediately began ringing again. On the third call, Emily pressed the answer button. "Hey, you haven't paid the rent and dog food expenses yet, have you?" Linda's voice had its usual matter-of-fact tone. No greeting, no words of concern for Emily's injury. The landlord sent a reminder. And Jessica says Princess's dog food is almost gone. Emily gripped the receiver tighter. For a month, no one had checked on her well-being. However, when it came to money, they contacted her immediately. This reality was so clear that Emily almost laughed. Emily? Can you hear me? November's transfer hasn't come yet. Linda's voice contained some irritation. Emily slowly drew in her breath. Then she spoke the words she had prepared. I'm sorry, who is this? Silence continued on the other end of the phone. After a few seconds, Linda's surprised voice could be heard. What are you saying? Emily, did you hit your head? I'm sorry, but I'm troubled by money demands from someone I don't know. Emily's voice was surprisingly calm. Please contact me through a lawyer from now on. Emily. What foolishness. Linda's voice rose. We're family. You don't know me? How ridiculous. Family refers to relationships where people care for each other, Emily replied. A relationship that only makes one-sided money demands cannot be called family. On the other end of the phone, Jessica's voice could be heard. What? What did she say? This was followed by the sound of fighting over the phone. Big sister. Jessica's voice came through the receiver. What do you think you're doing? Princess doesn't have dog food. Don't you feel sorry for this poor thing? Princess? Emily pretended to tilt her head. Which dog are you referring to? I don't own any dogs. Your sister's dog. Did you forget? Jessica's voice was mixed with panic. I'm sorry, but I don't have a sister, Emily answered matter-of-factly. Moreover, I have no obligation to bear the food expenses of a stranger's dog. Emily Harrison. Linda came back to the phone. Stop this nonsense. End this ridiculous joke and send the money immediately. Did you say Harrison? Emily continued. I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone by that name. Please contact my law office for any future communications. Emily hung up and immediately set up call blocking. After that, she called the lawyer's office she had been consulting with. It was to begin preparing a damage claim regarding the dog bite incident. Lawyer Michael Cohen shook his head after hearing Emily's story. The owner has management responsibility. Especially with large dogs, failure to properly manage them is clear. Medical expenses, mental anguish, future therapy costs, a substantial damage claim is possible. That's not all, Emily continued. There should be video footage of the incident. A hospital nurse recorded it as evidence. Michael leaned forward with interest. What does that video show? My sister worrying only about the dog while ignoring me bleeding from the dog bite. Her voice screaming, "Princess is startled," is also recorded. That video unexpectedly attracted public attention. A young hospital nurse had posted it on social media with personal information concealed because the content was so shocking. The video clearly showed Jessica comforting the dog while leaving bloodied Emily untended. Unbelievable. Her sister's seriously injured and she's worried about the dog? This is family? Impossible. This woman must be out of her mind. Comments like these flooded in, and the video spread instantly. In 3 days it exceeded 1 million views and was featured on local news programs. Jessica's Instagram account was identified, and critical comments concentrated on her posts. Spending $500 a month on a dog is crazy, a demon turning her sister's blood into dog food money, harsh criticism continued. Her follower count dropped rapidly, and all brand collaboration talks were cancelled. Meanwhile, animal control seized Princess and began considering disposal as a dangerous animal. Jessica tearfully insisted, Princess did nothing wrong, but expert judgment classified her as a dangerous individual showing unpredictable aggression. The trial began 3 months later. Emily's lawyer requested $150,000 in damages, including medical expenses, mental anguish, lost income, and future therapy costs. Jessica's testimony in court put her in an even more disadvantageous position. Her statement that a princess is family. She's more important than my sister shocked the courtroom. Even the judge frowned, and the jury members clearly showed disgust. The defendant showed concern only for the dog despite her own sister suffering serious injury, Emily's lawyer stated while playing the evidence video. This was not merely an accident, but the result of completely abandoning responsibility as an owner. The verdict was Emily's complete victory. The judge ordered payment of $150,000 in damages, stating, "The defendant's actions are incomprehensible as a human being, and she failed to fulfill her responsibilities as an owner." Additionally, Princess's disposal was decided. To pay the compensation, Linda and Jessica had to sell their house. The home where 3 generations had lived had to be given up to repay debts. The two moved to a small apartment and faced reality for the first time. After the verdict, Emily received one phone call from her mother. This time from a different number, and the voice was trembling. "Emily, please, help us." Linda's voice contained desperation she had never heard before. "We don't know what to do anymore." Emily held the receiver and maintained a long silence. Then she said finally, "Where did you obtain that number?" After hanging up, Emily changed to a new number. It was a complete break with the past. 5 years passed. Emily's life had changed dramatically. Using the compensation money from the trial and funds she had saved through years of economizing, she established the medical device company she had always dreamed of. The company she named Healthcare Innovations specialized in developing patient-friendly medical devices and became a notable presence in the industry. Emily's office was on the 15th floor of a modern building in downtown Chicago. Large windows overlooked the lake, and she had achieved success far beyond what she had dreamed of as a child. 20 talented engineers and researchers worked at the company, and last year's sales exceeded $5 million. More importantly, Emily had found a true family. David, whom she married 3 years ago, was a kind man who also worked in the medical industry and understood and supported Emily's entire past. "I was attracted to your strength and kindness," he said. "Supporting family and sacrificing yourself are different things. You learned that." The two purchased a house in the suburbs and lived with Charlie, a gentle Labrador they had adopted from a shelter. Charlie was friendly and had not an ounce of aggression. He was loved by the neighborhood children too. He was the complete opposite of Princess. One spring afternoon, when Emily had finished a new product planning meeting at the company, Secretary Sarah approached with a troubled expression. "Ms. Emily, there's a personal call. It's from someone named Linda Harrison." Emily stopped moving for a moment. It was contact from her mother, with whom she had been completely out of touch for 5 years. "What is the nature of the call?" "She says it's an emergency. She wants to ask for your help." Emily took a deep breath. The day she had expected had finally come. "Please put the call through." When she picked up the receiver, she heard a trembling voice. "Emily? Please, listen to me." Linda's voice sounded much older than 5 years ago. "We don't know what to do anymore. Jessica got sick and needs treatment money. Help us, please." Emily answered quietly. "I'm sorry, but where did you obtain that number?" "Emily, it's your mother. Don't you understand?" Linda's voice was tinged with desperation. "Please, forget the resentment. Jessica is really in danger. I'm sorry for your situation, but I cannot respond to personal problems of people I don't know," Emily continued calmly. "Please refrain from such calls in the future. If necessary, please contact me through a lawyer." After hanging up, Emily stared out the window. She felt no guilt at all. Instead, there was a lightness of being completely freed from years of burden. That evening, when she told David about the situation, he gently held his wife's hand. "You made the right decision. If they were real family, they would have helped you when you were in trouble." Emily smiled. Real family isn't about blood relations, but about relationships where people care for each other. Meanwhile, Linda and Jessica lived in a small apartment room, blaming each other. Having lost their house, lost Princess, and lost Emily, their only source of economic support, the two had nothing left. It's all your fault, Linda said to Jessica. If you hadn't kept that dog, this wouldn't have happened. You treated Emily like an ATM too, Jessica retorted. I'm not the only one at fault. The neighbors also remembered that video. They were isolated, being whispered about as that toxic family. Jessica continued job hunting, but as long as that video remained on the internet, the possibility of being hired by a decent company was low. As spring turned to summer, Emily decided to donate to animal shelters as part of her company's charitable activities. Ironically, she ended up using more than 10 times what she had once paid for her family's dog for animals that really needed help. My past experiences might have had meaning after all, Emily told David. Without those experiences, I wouldn't have learned what was truly important. The counterattack that began 5 years ago was the best decision of Emily's life. By distancing herself from people who didn't value her, she was able to build truly valuable relationships. Now freed from the curse of blood relations, Emily had true freedom and happiness. Hearing the sound of Charlie approaching with his tail wagging, Emily smiled from her heart. This was real family.